I don't think Phil's brain just like really allows him to settle too much. I'm sure that there have been times where he's felt complacent or bored and he moves on to the next thing temporarily. But all that does is kind of let the competition catch up. And then you see things like the Galfond Challenge arise, where he wants to test himself again and see if he has what it takes to compete at a landscape where modern game theory is kind of driving the strategies.
So I set up a series of matches, one-on-one heads-up challenges against a lot of top players, and used these, first of all, to play, but second of all, to promote run-on-ones poker. And so the first one started in January of 2020 against a player only known as Vinny Vidi, 1993. And I was excited to do it. I was really excited to get back in the game. I just missed poker so much.
This is the middle of COVID, and we're all dying for something to do.
It was unlike anything I'd ever done commentary on before because of just the way the whole thing was set up.
Vinny was a top online PLO pro. The betting markets were skewed in his favor. A lot of people were betting on these matches. And I think before the match started, I was probably a 2-to-1 underdog by public perception. We were gonna play 25,000 hands of heads-up PLO, which is a lot of poker to be played.
The early days of the Galfond Challenge, internally in the office, it was super exciting. These were airing at night, but we had the projector going and everybody staying in the office, and we would watch him play.
We started playing, and the first couple of sessions I lost, but I was still feeling really good because I was really enjoying playing high-stakes heads-up poker again, and I felt like it would turn around. I felt like I had an edge. But as the sessions wore on, it just got worse and worse.
Those first couple sessions where Phil just lost and lost and lost, it was awkward.
There were days where it was like, in the beginning of him losing, it was like, oh, okay. But then it got to the point where you're just like, you almost wanted to look away, but you couldn't. It was a car crash.
It was just a line straight down to start. So it went from this like super exciting thing, and we had somebody managing the stream in a different room while everybody's out here watching and rooting them on, to it being pretty demoralizing.
It was almost like I never won. We played 4 days a week, and I think I was winning 1 out of every 8 sessions. And by the time we'd played about 10,000 hands, I was down 45 buy-ins, which was about $1 million. And heads up, 10 buy-in swings happen, but a 45 buy-in loss means you're probably outclassed.
People are split on everything these days, right? It's like, oh, I like this guy. Oh, half the people don't like this guy. Phil's like 90% people like Phil, maybe higher than that. So I do think going into it, people were rooting for Phil, but it was strange like how quickly people just wanted to be on like the right side of history. So once Phil started losing, the public sentiment turned a little bit as well.
Massive pot to Vinny Vidi. Phil down significantly so far this session.
There's more than what the public could see at that point. There was very nerve-wracking moments, I'm sure for Phil, but also for Farah. I remember texting with her a little bit, and it's very stressful because being in a relationship with someone during that, you want to be supportive, but it's okay to also absorb a little bit of that intensity as well. And I think Farah definitely feels and is going through everything that Phil is going through, even though she's not the one playing.
Watching my husband go through all that and all the public scrutiny and people talking about how he's washed up and not knowing what to say to him after each losing session, I was like running out of words to pump him up with or like boost his confidence. I just didn't know what to say anymore.
The internet pylon is real. People were pretty cruel to Phil.
The haters were having their day, and they weren't quiet about it in the chat. Phil sucks, he's overrated.
Everyone's like, oh, Phil bit off more than he can chew. Phil's gonna get shellacked here. Phil's gonna lose everything. What was he thinking?
Honestly, it was like Rocky IV when Drago kills Apollo Creed, and eventually you're just like, throw the damn towel, stop, Because he was getting pummeled. It was ugly.
I've been working with Phil over the last few years as his mindset and performance coach, helping prepare him for these high-stake challenges and high-stakes games to make sure that he's in the right mental state to be able to perform at his best under these high-pressure situations. The beginning of the VenVD challenge went almost as poorly as it possibly could have gone. It certainly started off as, hey, it's only a few buy-ins, it's not a big deal, it's PLO, this is the way the game swings, but it definitely started to build sort of day after day as we saw this very significant downswing.
I don't have too much ego regarding what people think of me as a poker player, but I have a little bit. And, a lot of people were saying, Phil's obviously washed up. This is, what is he thinking playing this guy? We had a structure where you could pay penalties to take days off. And so I paid a few $1,000s to take a few days off and think about if I wanted to continue the match or quit and wave the white flag.
When I talked to people about it, when I talked to Phil about it, it seemed like his psyche started to get affected a little bit.
Being in a situation like that, of being $1 million down, would be stressful for anybody. But Phil had a lot of experience playing high stakes poker, and I feel that was an edge versus if he'd been a player who'd never reached those stakes and had never been playing for these sums of money.
It's extremely easy to say from the back seat, oh yeah, you have to be rational in poker, and good players don't tilt. But until you lose $1 million in a couple of days or a couple of hours, and you feel that feeling, it's very, very different. I've seen some of the most disciplined looking people come completely unhinged.
I honestly don't know what he was thinking down $1 million, because that challenge was very unique in the sense that they had a big side bet as well, where him just clawing back some of the losses, getting in the hands, and maybe only losing like 200K in the challenge isn't really good enough, right? Like when you have another $250,000 on the side, you kind of have to go for broke. When there's a huge discrepancy in win rate like that, usually it's going to be the mental game that gives somebody a significant edge.
There were a lot of discussions during the break as to what Phil was going to do next. He was very, very close to calling it a day on the challenge. We had some discussions as to whether that was the right thing and how he would feel. And eventually he decided that actually he'd like to give it a go and see if he could win some of the money back.
As I recall, he was basically going to quit. And then, last minute he kind of decided no, he's going to go for it, which is even how he wrote the message. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was, a Galfond challenge update and, some kind of a one-liner that was like, I'm just going to play.
When he was down $1 million, he still believed he was a favorite in the match. Everyone is saying the same thing. He's washed up. He better throw in the towel. Did I have flickers of doubt? Possibly, but when he wanted to continue, he had my full support.
So after whatever number of sessions it took for Phil to lose $1 million, genuinely I felt bad for Phil. For me, I'm a human being. This is still real money to me. Oh my God, like this dude's losing $1 million. How much worse is it gonna get?
There were side bets at the beginning of the match, which at this point were long out of reach. I wasn't gonna recoup 45 buy-ins, but I wanted to decide if I thought I could beat him over the next 15,000 hands. And so not make a full comeback, but win some of it back and prove to myself and to others that I could hang with this guy. In the end, I decided to go for it, and we resumed the match.
Welcome. Good morning, everybody. Run It Once Nation. We are back for the Galfond Challenge.
Suddenly, we come back from break.
So here it is, Phil Galfond. The show goes on. He is down over 900,000 euros. He is down 45 buy-ins.
And Galfond starts to win. And the tide turns. And you can feel it. It is palpable.
What is Phil going to do now? 45-9 in there. There's a
does
call.
make the call.
Flush.
There we go.
Oh, baby. There we go.
There we go.
It was during both the break and the restart of the match that I really started to connect the dots between the new way of playing poker, studying solvers, focusing on theory, and my old way of thinking through hands.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Nice call from Phil.
That is, well, let's see a replay on that one.
That was a sick call.
In game, I was just thinking about what a solver would say. I wasn't thinking about hand reading. I wasn't thinking about what I knew about my opponent and how that would change various factors. The combination of that clicking with my luck turning around a little bit led to a lot of winning sessions.
I have not seen this kind of momentum for Phil over this long of a period in a session since this challenge started. Phil up now nearly 150,000 euro for the day.
The sentiment around Phil Galfond, and Benny Vidi for that matter, did shift. At that point, it looked like, okay, well, at least he's not going to lose 2 million. Maybe he'll only lose 400,000, right? But he just kept winning, and he kept winning.
There's the all-in. Galfond going on a little bit of a run right now.
By the time I was down 45 buy-ins, the betting markets closed. They just didn't offer the odds anymore because it was too silly. Yet somehow the comeback was happening.
I don't care how good a player he is. I mean, to overcome a deficit of about $1 million is just, that's not gonna happen, right? I mean, the odds of it happening are whatever. I remember talking to some people about it and they were like, maybe 4%, but he kept winning.
That was a huge pot too. The comeback is on.
Yeah, huge pot. Phil
Straight draw,
gonna
flush
win.
draw. Yep, does not get there.
We really felt the pressure of the situation had switched, and that Venvidi was then potentially tilting, or he was starting to play worse, and we felt the edge was growing as we continued deeper into the challenge. There seemed to be a shift there that was happening.
Galfond train continues. Look at this, just 90,000 on one table, 95,000 on the other table. Galfond up 5 buy-ins. Vanny just cannot get any kind of momentum going on either table.
You could certainly feel the excitement building, and it really did feel like one of those stories where the momentum was just behind it. You started wanting to believe that this fairy tale was going to come true.
About 10,000 hands later, before I know it, we're about even, and I actually have a chance to win this, which was unheard of.
Oh my fucking God, are you kidding me? Phil Galfond is up 102,000. The Galfond challenge is now down to 51,000. That's it. Galfond is down 51K.
I would never have thought that the Galfond challenge would be, it was like I said, it was heads up PLO with no hole cards online. Like, okay, how's that gonna compare to the World Series of Poker main event? And yet the day that Phil Galfond went into the green, it was one of my favorite days of broadcasting, period.
What a show it is. Phil Galfond currently up about 135,000 euros today, and he now has the total under 1 buy-in.
He had Venvidi on the ropes, and suddenly it was like, wow, could he win this?
We're on the edge of our seat. Will it happen? There's the call.
These commentators really had me pumped up.
Like she even said, like, when I made the call, Galfond is in the green. He's in the fucking green.
This pot could put Phil Galfond in the green. We're on the edge of our seat. Will it happen? It's 10,000 to call. There's the call. There's 910. Phil Galfond is in the green, everybody. Are you fucking kidding me?
Like she told me, she's like, when you said that, I got chills. Because it was so emotional. It was emotional for all of us. But for her, she had been riding that. You know, she had been riding that roller coaster with him.
Do you believe in miracles? Phil Galfond is in the green.
Him making that comeback was, oh man.
We had, 2,000, sometimes 3,000 people watching in previous days, and on this final match day, there were 26,000 people watching concurrently. I remember with, a few thousand hands left, tweeting out something along the lines of, I know this looks like the perfect comeback story, but just remember this is real life, and, I don't know what's gonna happen. Whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna try my best. And honestly, you couldn't have written it more dramatic. We entered the final 500 hands within a buy-in from each other. I think he was up $6,000 when we started our final day.
And we, by the way, are just 500 hands away.
Which is $20,000 buy-in. That swing is nothing. It came down to the final 100 hands where we thought that somebody was going to get up enough that you could essentially take a knee and fold the rest of your hands and win the match long before this. But somehow we were at hand 90 and it was still undecided. We were still so close.
It was just such a nail biter. Like the fact that they were in the final under 100 hands out of 25,000 and it was still either one's challenge to lose.
There was one big hand where I raised in c-bet and got called, and the turn paired the board and brought a flush. I had the flush. I actually had 2 outs to a straight flush and 2 outs to an overfull. And I decided to bet half pot, planning to check it down if I didn't improve, if I didn't hit one of my 4 outs. And he calls, and as it turns out, I hit one of those 4 outs. I hit an offsuit 10, which gave me a full house. So I bet pot on the river. Then he actually had a weaker full house and took all of his time bank and made the call. And at that point, I was frantically trying to figure out if I was across that threshold where I had secured a victory and I could fold out. And I had this spreadsheet prepared of all of the different number of hands left and how much you're up or down. As quickly as I could, figured out that I had crossed that threshold. And I sat out to confirm the numbers before we went on, and then I sat back in and I folded the last few hands.
That might have been the final hand. Phil is folded and sitting out. He's done it. It is over. Phil comes back, rises from the ashes, was dead. People said he was washed out. They said he was done. They said he should retire. He came back from being down 900,000 euros and wins it at the 0 hour here on Easter Sunday.
I remember Farah coming into my office while I was folding and was excited to celebrate with me, and I was kind of freaking out, like I don't want to misclick and accidentally play a hand.
For me, the moment he won was very different than for most. Sitting at my dining room table, furiously typing away on my laptop, making sure that the results shown on screen matched perfectly everything in the database.
Are you kidding me? Is this confirmed yet?
I just want to make sure that we have this right. Okay, there's a chance.
There wasn't any reason to be concerned, but you know, we had to make sure that because this was potentially coming down to the penny and it was for so much money, we just had to make sure everything was perfect.
Like after seeing what a toll it took on him mentally and emotionally behind the scenes, it wasn't about like winning the money anymore. I was so proud of him. And yeah, it was just a huge relief.
I can remember watching it with one of my friends over the last, however 500 hands, watching it tick down, and it was just such an exciting day to see him win that hand, and then he sat out and everyone realized that the number had been hit and he'd made it happen. It was a really wonderful day.
Phil Galfond has done it. He has achieved the impossible.
We both always say you couldn't have written it, and you really couldn't have.
It'd gone from what was effectively the most negative situation possible to an absolute fairy tale story. So it was a lot of celebrating afterwards.
It was really surreal. I've won 3 World Series poker bracelets, and this trumped those experiences, and the feeling of victory of those by a mile is unlike anything that I've done in poker.
For Phil Galfond, what I didn't think was even possible would be the fact that I think he earned even more respect from the community.
I think poker as a whole for most people, especially coming up during the Black Friday day, was about making as much money as you possibly could and then exiting. So the people that have stuck around know that there's more to the game than just showing up and collecting a check, if you will. The people that stick around from that time frame know how hard they have to work in order to become successful in today's climate.
After that match, I went on to win the next 4. I'm now 5 for 5 in the Galfond challenges.
Phil having the Galfond challenge and effectively having a clean sweep in that is one of those things that kind of proves the test of time, that he doesn't just win back then and have that legacy prior, but still is extremely successful in today's game and today's era.
Winning this first match, and especially in the fashion that I did, was incredibly rewarding for me. Because I had proven to myself that I still had it, that the skills and the experience that I had still translated in the post-solver world, and have kind of firmly proven to everybody, but mostly myself, that I can still compete with the best.